Welcome to the Virtual CPA Success Show, where we're 100% focused on helping service-based businesses achieve success. Are you a business owner interested in learning how to scale your business? Has your business reached over $1 million in annual revenue? Then this podcast is for you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's special podcast. We have a very important guest on here. So everybody that follows us on social, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, anywhere that you have an idea of what Summit is doing has seen a big announcement that came out very recently that we are merging with a large firm out of St. Louis, Anders. And so we thought it'd be a good idea today to talk a little bit more about this process and kind of how we got there. And so very excited to be joined today by two people that were a key part of this merger. So first, Jody Grunden, as always.
Hey, Jamie, I'm pretty excited about this as well. This is good stuff.
And Robert Minkler.
Hey, Jamie, thanks for having me today. Yeah, it's going to be fun to talk about this to the audience.
Great. So let's start at the beginning, Robert. So I wanted to get your perspective. How did you first kind of hear about Summit, and how did this whole process get started?
Well, it's interesting. Well, of course, you see Jody's and Adam's and the crew's names at CPA Trend Lines and so forth. So kind of knew of the firm before, but we were specifically looking for virtual CFO, fractional CFO type services in a merger partner. And so we had a consultant that we hired kind of knock on some doors, so to speak, to see if we could find somebody that would come in and merge with us and be a part of the team.
Great. So was your first impression with Jody, or I'm surprised that we got to where we are today. If your first,
you don't have to answer that. You don't have to answer that.
That was the first hurdle to get over, but it was pretty quick.
Great. So now, Jody, let's go to your side. Let's talk about your first connection with the Anders side of things and what your original thoughts were.
Yeah, no, that's pretty cool. Yeah, because over the years we've been approached by many different firms. We've been approached by many different companies looking to get some insight to potentially acquire us. And we've always pushed back. We always said we'll listen, but we weren't really truly interested. And when we met the team at Anders there back in, it was probably September, October. It really kind of gained some legs. Like, these guys are pretty cool. They're different than the typical accounting firm, and that was super important to us. And we thought, hey, let's continue the conversation. Never really, I really didn't have the idea that we were actually going to do it. It was one of those things that, hey, this was great, good conversation. Maybe in a few years, maybe some other time. This is kind of, this is kind of like a stepping stone. Hey, this might work. If it doesn't work, then great for the next one. Make it a little easier on the next person that comes looking. But they kept calling. They kept meeting with us. We met with them, back in November. Remember coming to the office in St. Louis. It was pretty cool. It was a pretty short drive for us. It was about a 6-hour drive from Fort Wayne. That's where Adam and I both live. And we met the crew there, and they're extremely welcoming. And it was it kind of, again, took more legs from there. It started thinking, well, this might happen. And we thought, hey, before we even get it even further on, then we had to see if the team, felt the same way that Adam and I felt. And so, because again, it wasn't necessarily the money, it wasn't necessarily the size of the company, it wasn't necessarily any of that. It was more the feel. Is this firm very similar to us, where we would feel comfortable being part of that team? And then Jamie brought you and the rest of the directors and a few CFOs out. What is in January to get your opinion, and what did you guys think? I mean, obviously you didn't know anything about it because we couldn't tell you until that point. And then the news was, hey, we might be looking to merge with another firm. You probably had to kind of gulp a little bit, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, I definitely, it's a similar thought that I think a lot of people had is, I went to work for Summit for certain reasons. A lot of it was the culture, a lot of it was the team, and there's a lot of stuff that I loved about working with Summit. So anytime I hear, okay, we're going to make a change. We're going to think about merging into a company with a larger company. The first thought was culture fit. And so as I went down to St. Louis, that was my first thought was, okay, I want to make sure that when I talk to their team and talk to their people, that this was going to be a place that I still wake up every morning excited about working for, because that's what it comes down to me for me. I've worked, it's my fourth job since college, and each job I enjoyed, but once I stopped enjoying it, that's when I moved on. And so I wanted to make sure this wasn't that moment for me, is okay, I'm going to no longer enjoy working at Summit. And honestly, it was the first night when we started playing dodgeball with zombies in the a high-rise hotel. Like, okay, this seems like a pretty cool company to work for. So that worked for me. That's what I was looking for. I had a fun time that first night and get to know people. So
yeah, the feeling was mutual there, and it's interesting. Jamie, in your open, you mentioned Anders, a large firm in St. Louis, and I still don't picture us as a large firm. In 2021, we did about $51 million in revenue, which gets us right into the top 100. But we're just one office in St. Louis. We don't take ourselves too seriously. We have a lot of fun at work. I think you guys saw that when you were in our office. And I thought the cultures matched just really well, just meeting all of you guys, and just hearing the stories and, some of the things we do and then some of the things you do. I mean, obviously it's different because you guys are 100% distributed and we're, I guess I would call us more of a hybrid office. We have bricks and mortar, but we've got a lot of people that work remotely as well. So I thought it was a really good fit. The culture was a good fit. And it wasn't, and we've always been, and I think you guys sort of determined this on your own as we talk through things. We've always been willing to try different things. We're not the rigid CPA firm, and we never really want to be. We always want to remain nimble and flexible and ready to tackle that next big thing, whatever that might be. So it's just exciting, I think.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And yeah, I use big CPA firm just because, that's obviously compared to where we are. And that's
Right.
where a lot of people's minds went when the announcement happened, or even when we found out. But no, I agree. Like I said, I think that, the nimbleness you mentioned is huge. I always joke with Jody about, one of the first experiences I had at Summit where we were meeting with a client, and I had Jody and Adam on the call with me, and they brought up this tool, and it looked pretty cool in the meeting. And the next morning, there's an announcement from Jody: we're using this tool for all of our clients going forward. And I'm like, that's the kind of nimbleness that I've got used to working with. And my previous experiences with larger companies is that just doesn't happen. And I think with all the conversations we've had, and obviously we're further down the road here, and I'm on the steering committee, and a lot of those conversations we've had have been very similar to that. We're talking about something. It's not an immediate no. It's not a, hey, let's think about that for the next 6 months. It's let's start investigating it and see if it's the right answer for us. So I think that nimbleness is going to be key going forward for a lot of people coming in from Summit side.
Yeah, that was a big part of it, really, because change is really scary for accountants. They just hate change. I say that all the time, that with change, we kind of embrace change. And it sounds like Robert, your team as well. And the change part is the cool thing, because we don't change for change's sake. We don't just do it to do it. There's got to be a good reason behind it and focus. But the ability to adapt really quickly and go from A to B and then B to C, and then C didn't work, so we go back to B. That's got to be something that I think for firms of the future, it's got to be something that they're ready to do, and they can really embrace it and really go forward with it.
Yeah, I think historically, your typical CPA or CPA firm, you're right, is kind of slow to change. They got the tried and true. This is working. It's going well. Why change it? Don't fix it if it isn't broken, kind of a thing. And I just always go back to, not to get into a cheesy book quote or anything, but Jim Collins' Good to Great, when he says good's the enemy of great, I think about that all the time. Just because things are going well doesn't mean they can't be better. So that's what we try to live by. So I think we're just on the same page there, and it's just more obvious every day. So it's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So the next area I want to go into, and I don't want to sugarcoat this because I think it is important, is obviously this relationship, this merger would not have happened if there weren't benefits for both sides. So I want to hear from both of you how this merger is going to benefit each side, and how it will help the organization grow in total in the long run. So Robert, let's start with you. As you were going into this and you were looking at Summit, what benefits did you see from bringing us in?
Yeah, so I think there's multifaceted benefits, and it's not just the obvious things. The virtual CFO offering is what initially attracted us to Summit, but as we peeled back the layers, there were just a lot more benefits that I started to see in this combination. So I don't think it's a secret to anyone that the efficiencies your firm's been able to develop in delivering this service from an alternate, what I'll call an alternate billings philosophy, service delivery, technology stack, all that stuff as it relates to virtual CFO services is a definite benefit. But then I started seeing, how can we take some of those things and apply them to different areas of our firm? Because we have traditional tax and audit services, for sure. We do a lot of that stuff. But then there's other advisory services that we offer too. So some of the things that you've gone through the pain of learning how to do are going to benefit some other areas of the firm. And then, then another benefit to me is, these last couple of years with the pandemic has just thrown a lot of every office on its head. We had to morph and do things that you guys have been doing for 8 years or 10 years. So you kind of just went to work the next day, and everybody else had to figure out how to do it. And so we started, we made some mistakes. We people work hybrid now. It just accelerated everything a few years, I think. But there's still a lot more. That pendulum hasn't swung all the way back yet. And so you guys have tried things and learned things that we haven't even thought about yet. So that's going to be, as we move into the future, and, like I said, we're a single office St. Louis firm, but now we have 50 offices, if you want to think about it that way, mm-hmm. Right? And it's actually more than that, because we do have we have one staff person's been in Cleveland for 10 years. And so she's, so we have some of that, but we haven't really gone to the extent of specifically recruiting without borders. And so we've always said, hey, if somebody contacts us and says, hey, can I work from a different city? We'll certainly consider that situation and see if we can make that work. But we haven't intentionally gone out that way. And I think that's another thing, that it just broadens our ability to hire not only in the VCFO realm, but other parts of the firm as well. So that's
Great.
probably the main things that I can think of. And if I think of another one in the interim, I'll just interrupt whoever's talking. And
exactly. You
figured
the format out already.
Robert, kind of the same thing. When we met back in October, like I said, we weren't really not even really contemplating seriously about making any kind of merger, especially of this type of nature. And the big thing that I can kind of see, if I kind of reflecting back, is that at Summit, we've accomplished a ton. Did things a lot differently from the very beginning, from the way that we build to working remotely to doing this virtual CFO service, that nobody thought would even catch legs back in 2004, and so forth and so on. And working the remote thing and actually keeping the culture and all that kind of stuff, we've accomplished. The profitability was there. A lot of CFO firms have, struggled with profitability. We figured that out too. Highly profitable virtual CFO firm, which was huge. And retention was great. Client, we don't lose clients, which is nice. 94% retention rate, and then having a team available throughout the United States. And so, for me personally, I hate to say it, but I got bored. And it's kind of weird. You think about it, it's like, well, we accomplished everything. So now the next goal is just to double in the next 3 years. Well, we've done that every 3 years since 2010. So that wasn't really a different goal. So it was like, hey, let's first get to the 5 million. Let's get to 10 million. Now let's get to 20 million. So what does 20 million look like? Well, we'd probably make another goal and say, well, let's get to 40 million, that type of thing. Because again, it's that rinse repeat. And, when I don't know who it was, but somebody, it was one of the, I think it was one of the PE firms that contacted us before and said, you know what, hey, could you guys get, here we're like touting, hey, we're going to be a $20 million firm in 3 years, high five, we're at 9 million this year, and we'll do 11 million by the end of this year, and we'll be at 20 million in 3 years. And they're like, well, can you get to 50 million in 3 years? And we're like, well, 50 million. Well, wait a minute here. I thought 20 million was cool. And they said 50 million. I'm like, well, yeah, we could probably do 50 million. And then it's like, well, how are we going to do 50 million? And then when you guys came along, it's like, I think the big issue is with us is that we kind of limited ourselves with as many with hiring new people, having a bench. We're so worried about being highly profitable and all that kind of stuff. We're like, in order to get to 50 million, we really have to have a bigger bench. We have to have more people on the sideline that's not at capacity so that we can really grow that. And then when you guys came along, it's like, wow, this could be the perfect scenario on getting that, because a traditional accounting firm is always looking for new people. So having people on the bench, to me, seems like that'd be perfect for them, because I'm sure we can utilize people in a lot of different ways. And with that, I thought, hey, we could truly could get that $50 million mark in a very quick pace if we had somebody that had the same philosophy, ideals, core values that we had in order to grow that, and weren't so worried about the billable hour requirement all the time. Somebody that was open to the way that we bill. Value-based billing is a great way of billing. Sometimes you're super profitable, sometimes you're not, and you have to accept that. And so a lot of firms have an issue with that or have a problem with that, just inherent, because they've always been billing by the hour. We had to get through a lot of different stereotypes that a typical firm had. And so again, when we met Robert and the team, it was like, this could be something that we could actually get there, something that's challenging, something that's going to make it exciting for me, and it was kind of funny because they came back and said, you know what, we want to give you this and hope you don't mind me talking about this, Robert, but it's kind of funny. You guys mentioned, hey, let's give you a 3-year deal where we're going to give you a salary for 3 years, and we're going to do profit, and then we want to lock in for 3 years. And I'm thinking, 3 years? Why the heck would I want to leave in 3 years? Let's make it 5 years. Let's guarantee our salary for 5 years and work on a 5-year goal. Because I knew 3 years, 3 years we could possibly hit it, but it's going to take a little bit of people. We're going to have invest in people in order to get there. And it's like, I really thought that the really big turn is 5 years. And I'm throwing things out there, and Robert, you're going to probably kill me for this, but I think we can double the size of the firm in 5 years. I really do. And a lot of it, not only from adding the virtual CFO side to it, which I think is a huge component, but if we can have the rest of the team start over time, start adopting some of the principles that we put in place, just with even the virtual side, the basically the flat fee billing, get kind of moving away from the hourly bill, all those different things that are stereotypical accounting. If we can move away from that and really develop a culture where the team isn't working more than 45 hours a week throughout the year, that'd be kind of cool. And it's not heard of in big firms at all. And it'd be kind of neat to be able to do that. And really, as I mentioned in my introductory talk to the team at Anders, it's like, it'd be pretty cool to be on the West Coast at a conference and someone asked me where I work, and I'm like, oh, Anders. And they're like, wow, Anders, that's pretty cool. How'd you get that job? That's the premier job. And that would be, to me, that would be a high five. I've succeeded, or that's what I would call success after 5 years. Having a conversation like that, East Coast, West Coast, maybe even in Montreal. I'm in Montreal, and how'd you get that job? That would be pretty sweet.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jamie.
I was just going to jump in here real quick and let you know, Robert, that because Jody's on these podcasts, we do have a great editor. So if anything he just said you need to edit out, we will make sure to take care of. So,
I was going to say, you kind of qualified your statement on doubling in 5 years, and the numbers that are in my head, I think that's not only possible and doable, but I would be disappointed if we don't. So you're not shocking me with that. I'm independently thinking that. Um, I did think about another benefit just while you were talking, Jody. So I do want
Yeah.
to throw this in here. And you mentioned culture
Having
again.
me on board, right?
Yeah. Despite having Jody on board, I just want to go back to culture real quick. And so that's the number one fear, I think, in traditional CPA firms in the remote work environment. How do you maintain your culture? Or if you go to the traditional way of expansion, which is bricks and mortar in a different city, how do you maintain that culture? And I've sat in on enough of your meetings so far that you've had with your team that we're starting to combine now. Because what is this, like a 5-day-old combined firm? So we're getting everybody integrated now, and it's just really cool how you guys keep the culture going with a remote work environment, and that's just something that I think people grasp at or don't do it because they don't think they can maintain it. So I think that's a huge benefit too.
I think with that, I think the big thing about it is when you're distributed, and I don't think this is alone a distributed issue, but I think it's impossible to happen if you're not doing this, is you have to be intentional about culture when you're distributed. And I think that's why it's so important, and it's worked out so well for us is, if I wanted to go a whole day without talking to someone, I 100% could, and Jody and Adam wouldn't notice, and Jody and Adam wouldn't even deal with it. But that my job is managing the team, and so I make a point every day to pop in someone's office and just talk to them about how life's going, how work's going, how I can help them. And so I think it is an intentional thing. In order to be distributed, in order to have a good culture, you have to think about it every day, and you have to have not just me, not just Jody, not just Adam, but your entire team thinking about it every day. And so I think that's why it's worked, and I think that's, again, not that much different than a brick and mortar. But if you don't do it, you're destined to fail. I think there's plenty of companies that are in a building where they can survive a little longer without that intention of culture.
Right.
So I'm also going to touch a little bit on what Jody mentioned about the people side of things. And I think the interesting thing, I think this is pretty important for a lot of our audience, is people say you can't time the market, and I think that's kind of how it goes with people as well. Is we've tried these things in the past. We've tried, okay, let's spend the next 6 months hiring ahead. Let's get 2 extra CFOs on capacity. Let's get 2 extra seniors on capacity. Let's have this extra capacity, and let's try to do it that way. And it never works. And the reason it never works is because who knows what's going to happen over those 6 months. We could get 10 new clients a month over those next 6 months, and then we're behind on capacity that quickly. Or those next 6 months, we could have no clients. We could have 0 clients come through. We could be a dry spell, and then we're end up burning these costs that these people just brought in. And so I think that's, as I was listening to Jody talk, of someone who's very involved in delivery, it's like, in order to really make this work, which is something Summit's never been able to do, is you have to have the mindset of, this is going to be a long-term result for us, is we're always going to be a little bit heavy on the bench in order to make this work, because those months we do have those 10 clients or those 15 clients come in, we're going to have to be able to, first off, staff them without any problem, and then quickly rebuild the bench right back up, because we just took half of our capacity. So I think that's the long-term play that I'm excited about with moving to Anders, is that we're going to be able to do that and really be able to not have to worry about trying to time the market right and say, okay, these are the 6 months that we're going to get ahead, because we've tried that how many times, Jody? And it's just never worked.
Yeah.
So
I would say never worked, but it's not a consistent thing for sure.
Yeah.
Right. 100% agree. And we don't pick up 15 clients a month, just so everybody out there understands, knows that. Pick up about 4.
I'm talking about that double the firm size thing you're talking about.
Yeah, what I was just going to jump in and say real quick is I think that's one of the benefits of the combination is that the sharing of resources. There's different aspects of what we do for our clients that maybe don't really fit into the VCFO model as you guys have built it, but there's still valuable services to clients that we can train people on and that kind of thing. And so we can utilize some of those resources so it smooths out some of the bumps in the hiring up. And so, you guys know, we never take our job postings down, especially today's day and age. And probably a lot of the listeners that are CPA firms on this podcast would say the same thing in today's day and age, just because it's tough to find and keep good people. But that's another benefit that's going to come out of this is that we don't have to be so regimented about hiring just at the right time. We just continue to keep that pipeline open, and I think it's going to work well.
Yeah, which is definitely music to Jamie's ears, I'm sure.
Well, and then the other thing is too, in having a firm like we already have situations even before this where folks would just they're in the tax department and they're just kind of done and they want to try something else or audit or whatever. They might go to our outsourced accounting group, or they'll go to our business valuation and forensics group and do that, or something else, healthcare consulting, maybe not so much IT consulting because that's a completely different skill set, but that's, I see that really working with this service as well. As we grow that, we're probably going to have people that look at that and go, okay, well, that would be kind of cool to go and try that. And so we'll have, we'll just have more slots and more people to fill those slots and be able to create capacity that way too.
And I know from the Summit side, I'm super excited about that as well. Like, I mean, Jody and I could probably name names of people that we've lost. We're like, dang it, that's a person that if we would have had an Anders, that, how many people have come to us and said, I just missed tax, which I don't know how people say that, but we've had people come to us and say, I just missed the day-to-day doing the tax work and getting my fingers dirty and just getting into it. And so I think that, we've had people say that to us. We've had people say they missed audit. We've had people say they want to just try something at a bigger company, a bigger firm. And so, like, we've had so many people come to us and say that, where it'd be great if we could have kept those people and say, hey, here's some options for you. And I think that would be a huge benefit for us as well.
Yeah, the kind of the cool thing is that, now we can really, whereas we typically don't recruit for tax per se. We have our tax team, but we're not recruiting all the time for it. Now we can recruit all throughout the United States for tax work. So for those individuals that are looking to completely work remotely, we have that capability now and can bring and absorb those into a traditional tax practice outside of the virtual CFO service. We do that already with audits, with benefit plan audits. We've done that for years with that, but now we even got a bigger benefit plan audit side. We've got, the combined Anders Summit audit practice is about 400 audits a year. And so that's pretty significant when it comes to 401k audits of that nature. And so, now we can recruit all over the place and really kind of build the team, throughout the U.S., Canada, North America, anywhere really, and really kind of build a solid team with that. So that's exciting for sure. And really kind of working that remote environment and everything. I'm looking forward to seeing how that really accelerates our growth, with just having that capability.
Great. So the next question, I want to go down the path of our listeners. So I'm sure there's listeners on both sides of this conversation. Some that have thought about being acquired and what that would look like and what they should be thinking about, and some that are thinking, hey, maybe I should grow through acquisition into this path. So Jody, I'm going to start with you on this one. So what tip would you have for that for listener that's like, wonder if I should think about going down this path? What would you advise be for them?
Probably to run.
Toward it or away?
No. Great. That's a great question, Jamie. I would say always having an open mind. And I think Adam and I have always had that. Where we're going to actually listen to things, not be so closed-minded to saying, hey, the other side is you got the Force and you got Star Wars type action. You don't want to be on the dark side there, I guess. And that's not true. I mean, there's great firms out there that would be great partners with really any firm if they're open to it. And so I would say keeping your eyes open and your ears open and really keeping your mind open to what can be a potential if you did merge with another firm. And with that, losing power is probably one of the biggest things that a lot of smaller firm owners have, because now they've got to share power versus having it all by themselves or sharing with one or two people in a smaller firm or whatever. Now they've got to share it amongst others. And so, I think it's important, and like what we did, really kind of do your due diligence and in the way that, hey, is this firm a really good fit personality wise? Are the people that you're going to be working for or with Is that somebody that you're cool with meeting with every single day of the week? Because like they say, a job is like a marriage. You typically see your people at work more than you see your spouse. And so is that going to be a long-term relationship? Can I go out and have a beer with that person, feel comfortable? Can the conversation continue without big, huge pauses and like, now what I'm going to say type of thing? Those are the things that for me really makes a merger opportunity worthwhile and important and successful, is having that ability to really just simply, hang out with somebody and feel comfortable with them. And no different than if they were working with you in your current firm.
Great answer. How about you, Robert?
I know that was a great answer.
I know you did.
Yeah, you probably fed them these before. No, I can't say a lot of those things better than what Jody just said. I would just preface it by saying my assumption on this question is, hey, the principals or the partners are going to continue to work in the business, as opposed to they're looking for a succession plan. Like they don't have that figured out. And so that's what they're getting at. So that would be more of a financial transaction. So what I would say is, if a firm is looking to possibly considering merging, we call it merging up. Everything that Jody said is right. I mean, if you're trying to chase dollars initially, it's probably the wrong reason to merge. But if it gives you more capability and allows you to offer enhanced services to your client base, those are good reasons. But yeah, I mean, really, what Jody was talking about is culture fit, and so that's really key. And the leadership, I think, of the acquiring firm, what kind of structure do they have? And Jamie, I'm not sure if you and I have talked about this. I know Jody, you and I have talked about it, but we get calls all the time for larger firms, from national firms and regional firms, to sit down and they want to add us to their firm, and we've been pretty, just like you guys have been all those years. We've been pretty resistant, and so I always say never, and I share, Jody, your thoughts in that. I always have conversations. I'm pretty transparent with everyone. We talk frankly, and I just tell people we don't really have an appetite, but I'm happy to talk, and because we always learn something and want to make relationships. It's just, the firms that would want to acquire a firm like ours are pretty established, mainstream firms. Not that we wanted to go down this rabbit hole, but Jody, you also mentioned PE. I've talked to a couple PE firms just to get information and see what they want to do. But that adds a whole nother level of accountability too, because now you got these outside investors that want to return. And how do you make return? Well, you take it out of partner compensation. So so it's just interesting. And so, but kind of just to wheel it back to Jamie, your question, I just think keeping an open mind, and making sure whatever you've built is going to still be allowed to flourish in the new situation. And I think that's what's key. If your thoughts are, we're going to continue to grow this and provide opportunity for your people.
Yeah, I think that's really key. And again, I think we're talking a lot about culture here, but it is probably the number one thing. And one of the things that I told Jody going into this was that I'm not going to trust Jody, because Jody and I are very similar, and we take EQI tests prior to starting at Summit. I think I'm a 99. I think Jody's 100. So like when it comes to those optimists, the optimists are the people that you got to not trust when it comes to this type of situations. So that's why I'm glad we have someone like an Adam, who is a little bit more of a pessimist and is going to ask 1,000 questions. So I think if you are a firm that's thinking about going down this road, make sure you have that, people's strengths and where to lean on. And because I didn't trust myself when it came to this either. Like I said, once we started playing dodgeball with zombies days, I was in. I'm like, yep, this works for me. And I know Jody has that similar mindset where he can find positives in any situation. But someone like an Adam, who is much more critical thinking and much more like, okay, I'm going to pick up every rock and ask questions about where this rock came from and how we got it. And he's going to be very detailed when it comes to these type of things. And so I think it's really important to know who you have coming into the relationship, because again, I don't think Jody and I hardly talked about this at all, where I was in Adam's office every day being like, hey, tell me what you've been asking. Tell me how you're thinking about this, because that's the person that you gotta lean on when it comes to this. And then if you're on the opposite side, if you're the pessimist coming into it, then obviously you're going to spend a lot more time with Jody. You're like, okay, Jody, tell me the positives you're seeing here. What are you excited about? Because I do think it's important to know your partners and know your partner's personalities going into this. Cool. So we are right up on time here. So I'm going to give both our guests one final thought. I know I'm excited about this and where we're going to go, and have to have this podcast again in another year or so and ask that same question. What advice do we have for our listeners? Because I'm sure the answers will be a little bit different, but hopefully still just as positive. But let's start with you, Robert. Any final thoughts for the listeners?
Yeah, we're still in the honeymoon stage. I think we've just signed the paperwork last Friday. So we got a lot of hard work to do, and but it's just the future's so bright. It's really going to be fun. So now we're shifting gears into seeing how this combination is really going to allow our combined groups to grow and grow faster than either one of us could have dreamed before it. So I don't a lot in the future that's unknown yet, but having a blank slate's kind of nice too, because we can draw it however we want. So it's good.
Yeah, definitely well put, for sure. I mean, and my excitement is that I've already on a couple prospect calls, I've already had them with a few of the folks at Anders, and it's been pretty cool to see the reaction that they've got when we're meeting with prospects, and kind of the different approach that we take with things. To make it, a win-win situation for everyone. And so it's kind of exciting and refreshing to kind of get some, basically, hey, this is confirmation that, hey, I think we did the right thing. This is definitely going to be accepted, amongst their team. And they're excited to see, what the future can bring with us. So I'm super excited, super excited with it. And, looking forward to definitely a bright future.
Yeah, I think to second that, the clients, we sent email communication to our clients, and the feedback we got was positive, as well as our team. Our team is super excited about this and ready to see where this brings us. And so I think that's the key. Is I think all the parties are, like you said, in that honeymoon phase, but ready to see where this takes us, and everybody's starting the hard work. So this is the fun part. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you both for joining, and I think this will be a well listened to podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Enjoy this podcast? Visit our website at summitcpa.net to get more tips and strategies for achieving business success. We're here to be a resource in this ever-changing industry.